I think I've told the story on here, my Simpsons story. I have, right?
I don't know if you have on the podcast.
Well, when I worked at the Simpsons, should I tell this? Is this okay to tell? I'm sorry to derail you quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I worked at the Simpsons.
Such a horrifying story.
I worked at the Simpsons, and I was there late one night for a script run, and I had to go drop the script off in the basement of the Fox slot. It was like a Friday night. It was like 11 p.m. And I went down there. I had to use the restroom. I will say that. I'm sorry that it's gross. So I went into, in my mind, it's gross. I went into the restroom. I dropped the script off. This is the basement of the Fox building where the script department is. I went in there and I sat down on the toilet, and all of a sudden the lights went out. And I was like, oh man, the lights went out. It was like a timer or like a motion sensor.
California.
And so I started waving. I started waving my hands. I don't have to do this because we're on a podcast and no one can see this. But I was waving my hands in the air.
As if you were on a desert island trying to coax a plane to land.
100%. Yeah, to notice me. I was waving my hands trying to get the lights to turn on. Nothing was happening. So I stood up. I took a couple steps and I was waving my hands and nothing happened. And then I opened the bathroom stall door and my pants were around my ankles. And I was naked from the waist down, and I was waving my hands trying to have the lights go on, and then suddenly the lights shot on, and a huge crew guy walked into the bathroom, and he was wearing a sweatshirt.
Why didn't you pull your pants up?
So he saw my shrunken genitalia sitting in the wind. And he had a crew shirt that said House on it, the show House MD. Yeah.
Hugh Laurie.
So to this day, I believe that he was a crew guy on House. And I was waving my hands, and he walked in and saw it. And he stopped, and he turned around, and he left. And he walked out of the bathroom. Did you make eye
contact?
Yeah, no. I was like front and center. We saw each other.
And were you like, "Hi"?
No, I just stared at him, and then he left. He left the bathroom.
Did you keep waving?
I mean, my hands were literally in the air when he came in, and then
Did he look at your genitals?
He had to have seen them. There's no way that. I mean, well, hopefully
they're so big.
I hope to God he saw him. He was wearing two. He was wearing two periscopes on his eyes.
Like a pirate?
He was wearing two periscopes. Yeah, like a pirate.
Was he very low to the ground? Why did he need a periscope?
Oh shit! But I had binoculars.
You mean microscope?
He was wearing a microscope.
You can't wear a microscope.
You guys got me nervous telling this story. He was wearing microscopes over his eyes, and he.
You don't. Even a scientist doesn't wear a microscope.
I know they don't wear fucking microscopes. It was a visual joke, for God's sakes.
He's like a steampunk.
But anyways, he saw my genitalia, and he saw me waving.
Did he look horny?
He didn't look horny at first, but then he looked horny, and then he left. And I went and sat back down, and that was it.
Did you? But were you like? Did you continue going to the bathroom?
I mean, like I had to finish up and do whatever I had to do for sure.
You were so embarrassed.
I was completely embarrassed. I went and told the birthday boys immediately about it. I was very, very embarrassed about the whole thing.
Were you crying?
No, why do you think that do I cry that much around you? Do I seem like a guy who cries?
Well, no, that sounds like incredibly embarrassing, so much that you might cry.
I didn't cry. I mean, I was extremely embarrassed, and I was like, I never want to see this guy again.
Well, I have a surprise for you, Mitch.
The crew guy from House is here?
He's in the next room.
I never did see him again. But if
anyone listening knows anyone who's ever worked on the show House,
oh my God,
we could find this guy,
don't fucking
get in touch with the podcast.
Yeah,
on Twitter, is that what you do?
If you remember hearing about a house guy who committed suicide, it might have been the crew member.
He had to quit because he was too horny.
So this guy...
Please contact the show.
This guy saw me. Well, in both of your stories, I'll break them down. He saw me, and he was so disgusted by what he saw that he killed himself.
Yeah.
And then in your story, he saw me, and he got so horny that he couldn't work ever again.
I think you merged the two.
I think my story's nicer.
Yeah, your story's much more complimentary.
I think he could have gotten so horny that he couldn't work. He couldn't hold down a job, and that drove him to suicide.
Killed himself.
All right, I'll take that.
Too horny to live.
But that was my that was my Simpsons story.
I'm glad you told it, Mitch. It's quite an anecdote. Baja Fresh.
Thanks, Weiger.
It is. It's good. It's a ripping yarn.
It's a ripping yarn. It feels like a classic Farrelly Brothers moment.
I did remember seeing the Farrelly brothers peeking through the window and writing it down. So.